He woke up before sunrise, the way he always did on days that carried quiet meaning. The room was still, filled with soft shadows and the distant sound of traffic starting somewhere far away. He sat on the edge of the bed for a long time, holding a small envelope in his hands. Inside it was a simple note he had written the night before. It was not addressed to anyone. It was just a few lines, meant more for himself than for the world. A reminder of why he was going out today. Life had not turned out the way he once imagined. When he was younger, he had dreams that felt clear and close. A family, stability, laughter at the end of the day. But time has a way of changing plans without asking. One bad decision led to another, and before he understood what was happening, he was alone. Years passed. The noise of life kept him busy, but the silence always returned at night. This day marked 10 years since the woman he once loved had passed away. She was not his wife, not officially, but she had been his home for a short and fragile time. Their story ended badly, with words spoken in anger and doors closed too quickly. After that, everything fell apart. He never truly knew what happened to her life after they separated. All he knew was that she was gone, and with her went many unanswered questions. He had decided that instead of sitting with old regrets, he would do something useful, something kind. That was how the idea of visiting an orphanage came to him. He had donated money before, quietly, through bank transfers. But this time, he wanted to go himself. He wanted to see faces, hear voices, and remind himself that kindness still mattered. After getting ready, he placed the envelope and a small bag of supplies into his car. The drive was longer than he expected. The city slowly changed into quieter streets, and then into a neighborhood that looked tired but alive. Children played near broken sidewalks. Old buildings leaned slightly, as if holding each other up. The orphanage stood at the end of the road. It was not large or impressive, just a simple building with faded paint and a small gate that creaked when he pushed it open. For a moment, he stood there, unsure why his chest felt tight. He told himself it was nothing, just nerves. Inside, the smell of soap and old walls filled the air. A woman greeted him warmly and thanked him for coming. She spoke kindly, with the tired patience of someone who had spent years caring for others before herself. He handed over the envelope in the bag, saying it was just a small donation. She smiled and told him every little bit helped. As they walked down the hallway, children peeked out from open doors. Some smiled openly. Others watched silently, their eyes careful and observant. He felt something shift inside him. These were not just children. They were stories waiting to be told. The woman explained how the orphanage worked, how many children lived there, and how hard it was to keep everything running. He listened, nodding, but his attention kept drifting. He noticed how some children stayed close to the walls, while others tried too hard to be noticed. Then he saw her. She was sitting near a window at the end of the room, drawing on a piece of paper. She did not look up when he entered. She was quiet, focused, separate from the rest. There was nothing unusual about her at first glance. Just a young girl with tied back hair and worn clothes. But something about her made him stop walking. He could not explain it. It was not her face exactly, or her posture. It was a feeling, a strange pull, like a memory trying to surface. He told himself he was imagining things. He had no reason to think twice about one child among many. Still, his eyes returned to her again and again. One of the boys ran past him laughing, nearly bumping into his legs. He smiled and stepped aside. The sound of laughter felt sharp and warm at the same time. He realized how long it had been since he had heard such a sound up close. The woman encouraged him to spend a little time with the children if he wanted. He hesitated, then agreed. He sat on a low chair as a few children gathered around him, asking simple questions. Where did he work? Why did he come? Did he have kids? The last question caught him off guard. He paused for a second before answering. He said no. The word felt heavy as it left his mouth. He had said it many times before, but today it sounded different. While talking, he noticed a girl by the window glance at him briefly, then look away again. Their eyes met for less than a second. But in that moment his breath caught. Her eyes were dark and calm, carrying something older than her age. He had seen that look before, in a mirror many years ago. He stood up sooner than he planned, excusing himself politely. His heart was beating faster now, and he did not like it. He told himself he was tired, that he needed fresh air. Before leaving, he asked a woman casually about the girl by the window. The question came out more carefully than he intended. The woman followed his gaze and nodded. "She's been here a long time," she said. "Very quiet. Keeps to herself. Smart girl." "How old is she?" he asked, trying to sound neutral. The woman told him her age. Something inside him tightened. The number echoed in his mind, matching a timeline he had tried not to remember. He forced a polite smile and thanked her for the information. Outside, the air felt colder. He leaned against his car, staring at the building. He felt foolish. Many children had sad stories. That did not mean anything personal. But as he drove away, the image of the girl followed him. Her eyes, her silence, the way she seemed both present and distant. That night, he could not sleep. He sat at his kitchen table, surrounded by old boxes he had not opened in years. Inside them were photographs, letters, and documents from a life he thought he had closed. He told himself he was only looking out of curiosity. Nothing more. One photograph slipped from his hands and landed face up on the table. It showed him many years younger, standing beside a woman who smiled softly at the camera. His chest tightened. He picked it up slowly. Memories returned, uninvited. Late-night conversations. Promises spoken too early. Fears left unshared. And then the argument. The one that ended everything. He remembered her leaving, her words sharp with pain. He remembered her telling him not to look for her again. And he remembered one final sentence, spoken so quietly he almost ignored it at the time. Now, sitting alone in the dim light, that sentence echoed louder than ever. He covered his face with his hands, his heart pounding. He did not want to jump to conclusions. Life had taught him how dangerous assumptions could be. Still, the feeling would not leave. The visit he thought would bring peace had opened a door he was not ready to walk through. As the night deepened, he realized one thing clearly. He would return to the orphanage, not as a donor, but as a man searching for the truth. The next morning, he woke with a restless energy he had not felt in years. The memory of the girl at the orphanage was still vivid in his mind. Her quiet demeanor, her eyes, the way she seemed so different from the other children. He could not shake it. Something about her pulled at him in a way he could not explain. He told himself to stay calm, to remember that many children were quiet. Many had histories that were complicated. Yet, deep inside, he knew there was a reason his thoughts kept returning to her. He decided to go back, but this time not just to donate. He needed to understand. He drove slowly, letting the city blur around him, his mind occupied with every detail he could recall from yesterday. The moment he reached the orphanage, his hands tightened around the steering wheel. The building looked the same, but somehow smaller, more intimate than he remembered. He parked and took a deep breath before stepping out. Inside, he was greeted with the same polite warmth. The staff member noticed his arrival and smiled knowingly. He handed over another small donation, but his mind was elsewhere. He asked if he could speak privately with someone about the children, and the staff led him to a quiet room away from a hustle and laughter. He started with casual questions, asking about the children, their routines, how long some of them had been at the orphanage. The woman answered patiently, noting ages, backgrounds, and challenges. He listened, nodding, but his eyes kept drifting to the girl who sat near the window, sketching quietly. He noticed her glance up at them briefly, then returned to her work, her posture protective, as if she was guarding herself from the world. The staff member noticed his focus and asked if he wanted more details about her. He hesitated, then nodded. She explained that she had been at the orphanage for several years, arrived with little information about her past. She was smart, observant, and preferred to stay alone most of the time. His heart skipped. The timeline matched what he feared, but dared not speak aloud. He asked more questions, careful not to show his growing anxiety. He learned about how she had been found, how she had interacted with other children, and how she had developed certain habits of silence and caution. Each fact felt heavier in his chest. He excused himself politely, saying he would like to see the children again in the play area. The staff let him out, and he kept his eyes fixed on her. When he entered the room where children were playing, he noticed a difference in her demeanor compared to the others. While many ran, shouted, or played games, she stayed back, observing, sometimes smiling slightly, but never joining. He moved closer, offering a small toy to a boy who had wandered near, but his gaze never left the girl. For a moment, their eyes met again. Something unspoken passed between them, a faint recognition, though he could not know why. He spent the next hour interacting with the children, helping them with small tasks, listening to their stories, and laughing at their jokes. Yet, every time he looked at the girl, he felt a mixture of fear and hope. He wondered if it was just a coincidence, if he was imagining a connection, or if his heart was recognizing what his mind could not yet confirm. After the playtime, the staff offered him tea. They sat in a quiet corner, and he began to ask questions more carefully. He inquired about her early years, about how she came to the orphanage, and about her family background. The answers were general at first, nothing specific, but he pressed gently, careful not to alarm her. He learned that there were almost no records, only vague details about her origins, which troubled him more than it should have. How could someone arrive in the world with so little trace, yet feel so familiar? The staff mentioned that she sometimes asked questions about her past, questions that went unanswered. She wanted to know where she came from, who her parents were, why they were not there. The words hit him like a sharp wave. He realized that she had been searching, even if unknowingly, for him, or at least for someone like him. The thought filled him with both dread and longing. He excused himself to walk through the orphanage grounds. The children were outside now, playing in small groups. He watched them from a distance, but his focus remained on her. She stayed near the edge, sketching quietly, her eyes following the others but not joining. He felt an urge to approach her, to speak, to bridge the invisible distance. Yet, fear held him back. What if he was wrong? What if she was just another child? What if he ruined whatever fragile world she had built for herself? Hours passed. He found himself sitting on a bench near the garden, remembering his own childhood and the small moments he had taken for granted. He remembered laughter, small victories, and also the absence of guidance at crucial times. He thought about the choices he had made, the people he had loved and lost. The memory of the girl's eyes kept returning, sharper, more defined, as if calling him to recognize something he had avoided for years. Eventually, the staff came to him again, bringing the girl over. He felt his chest tighten, his mind racing. She approached slowly, curious but cautious, her eyes still calm and guarded. The staff introduced them casually, speaking softly so as not to pressure her. He greeted her gently, offering a smile he hoped looked reassuring. She nodded, a small gesture, but it carried a weight he could not ignore. They spoke for a few moments about nothing important, the weather, a book she liked, the drawing she was working on. Every word was measured, deliberate, careful, yet beneath the surface, an unspoken connection hummed between them. He noticed tiny details, the way she tilted her head, how she reacted to certain phrases, and the way her eyes held both curiosity and caution. Each observation made his heart pound faster. When it was time for him to leave, he stood, feeling reluctant and anxious. The staff encouraged him to visit again, and he promised he would. As he walked toward the door, he looked back at her. She had returned to her drawing, but this time she glanced up once more. Their eyes met for a heartbeat, long enough to send a shiver down his spine. He felt as if a door had been opened, one that had been closed for too long. Driving home, he could not focus on the road. The city passed by in a blur. His mind replayed every detail, every moment. He tried to reason with himself. Maybe it was just a coincidence, he thought. Maybe he was reading too much into her demeanor, the timeline, the way she looked at him. Yet deep down, he knew it was not a coincidence. Something about her presence stirred memories and feelings he could not ignore. That evening, he returned to his apartment and pulled out old photographs, letters, and documents he had stored away. He compared dates, faces, and events, trying to make sense of the feeling gnawing at him. Every piece of paper, Every photo seemed to point toward the possibility he dared not speak aloud. He felt fear, hope, and longing all at once. He knew that the next steps could change everything. Before sleep, he wrote a note to himself, a reminder to stay calm and patient. He told himself that he must verify everything before jumping to conclusions. He also reminded himself that whatever happened next, he needed to consider the girl's feelings first. She was a child, and her world was fragile. He could not risk disturbing it recklessly. He lay down, but sleep did not come easily. The memory of her eyes, the quiet pull of recognition, and the unanswered questions kept him awake. He realized that life had a strange way of bringing people back, of creating moments that felt meant to be. He did not yet understand what it all meant, but he knew that he would return. He had to know the truth, and he had to be ready for whatever he might find. He could not stop thinking about the girl. Every detail from the previous visit replayed in his mind, like a film he could not pause. The way she had watched him without really seeing him, the calm in her eyes, and the small moments of recognition that made his heart ache with both hope and fear. He knew he had to return, not as a visitor or donor, but as someone searching for the truth. The next morning, he gathered his courage and drove to the orphanage. The streets seemed quieter than usual, yet every turn and corner reminded him of yesterday's visit. His mind wandered through memories he had long tried to suppress. Times of mistakes, loss, and choices had changed everything. But today, the past felt different. It felt closer. He felt like he was on the edge of something important. Upon arriving, he was greeted warmly by the staff. They noticed the determination in his eyes, the way he moved with a purpose that went beyond casual visits. He handed over another donation, though he barely noticed it. His attention was focused entirely on the girl. She was in her usual place near the window, sketching with quiet concentration. He watched her for a long moment, not wanting to disturb her yet unable to look away. He approached her slowly, making sure his presence was gentle. She looked up, meeting his gaze for a heartbeat, then returned to her drawing. He felt a shiver run down his spine. There was something familiar, almost magnetic, in the way she looked at him, though it was fleeting. He knew instinctively that the connection was real, even if the details were still unclear. The staff suggested that he spend some time with her, allowing him to observe her behavior and perhaps build a small rapport. He agreed, though his heart pounded with a mixture of anxiety and hope. He asked simple questions about her drawing, commenting on the colors and shapes. She answered softly, her voice careful, measured, but not cold. There was curiosity in her responses, and he noticed how she seemed to study him as much as he studied her. He spent hours observing and interacting with the children, yet his attention kept returning to her. He noticed subtle details, the way she held her pencil, the tilt of her head, the fleeting expressions that crossed her face. These small moments told him more than words ever could. They spoke of intelligence, resilience, an inner world that had been shaped by both loss and survival. After some time, he asked the staff more direct questions about her past. He wanted to know how she had arrived at the orphanage, who had brought her, and what records existed. The staff explained that information was limited, almost non-existent. Her early history was a mystery, with only vague details to fill in the gaps. Every answer seemed to push him closer to a realization he had been avoiding. The timeline matched something in his own past, something he had buried to survive. He decided it was time to check the documents he had brought from home. He excused himself and returned to his apartment, where he spread out old photographs, letters, and official papers. Dates, names, and events were compared carefully, line by line. He could feel the weight of each memory pressing against him. Slowly, patterns began to emerge, and the possibility that the girl was somehow connected to his past became undeniable. He remembered the day he lost her. Not fully, not completely, but fragments came back in flashes. He recalled a small child with wide eyes, the fear and confusion in her expression, and the painful separation that had followed. He had been too young, too unprepared, and too broken to fix it. But now, seeing her again, he felt a chance to reconnect, to make things right. Despite his excitement, he knew he had to proceed carefully. He could not rush, could not force a truth that needed to be discovered naturally. He contacted the staff to arrange a quiet visit, one where they could talk privately if necessary. The orphanage agreed, understanding the sensitivity of the situation. During this visit, he spent time with her in a calm room away from the other children. He spoke softly, asking questions about her drawings, her favorite stories, and her hopes. She responded cautiously, her eyes still wary but attentive. He noticed moments of recognition, small hesitations that seemed to carry unspoken memories. Each interaction, though brief, strengthened his belief that the bond between them was real. As the hours passed, he realized that the girl had a depth beyond her years. She had been through much, and her guarded nature was a shield built from necessity. He respected her space, speaking gently and listening more than he spoke. He wanted her to feel safe, to trust him without pressure. The patience was difficult, but he understood that trust could not be rushed. When it was time to leave, he felt a mixture of relief and longing. She had returned to her drawing, but their eyes met one last time before he walked away. The look was brief, yet it conveyed a connection neither of them fully understood, but both recognized. He knew that the next step would be crucial. Verification of the truth could not be avoided any longer. Back at home, he reviewed everything once again. The photographs, documents, and memories created a puzzle that was almost complete. He realized he needed concrete proof, a way to confirm what his instincts had already told him. The idea of a DNA test crossed his mind, and though it frightened him, he knew it was necessary. There could be no mistakes. The girl deserved clarity, and so did he. The thought of approaching the staff about this was daunting. He worried about her reaction, about the impact on her fragile world. He also feared rejection, the possibility that the truth might be too overwhelming for either of them. Yet, the need for honesty was stronger than fear. He resolved to proceed delicately, seeking both guidance and consent from those responsible for her care. Days passed as he prepared for the next visit. He organized documents, made phone calls, and tried to calm the storm of emotions within him. Every moment was filled with anticipation, fear, and hope. He understood that the journey ahead would require patience, empathy, and courage. He was ready to face whatever truths awaited, knowing that the girl's well-being would guide every step. Finally, the day arrived when he could speak more openly with the staff about verifying the connection. He explained his concerns carefully, expressing the need for confirmation while emphasizing respect for the girl's feelings. The staff listened, acknowledging the sensitivity and agreeing to facilitate the process in a way that prioritized her safety and comfort. He returned to the orphanage once more, heart pounding, fully aware that this visit could change everything. The girl was in her usual spot, sketching quietly. Their eyes met briefly, and he felt a shiver of recognition and anticipation. Today was not just another visit. Today, he would take the first step toward uncovering the truth, and whatever came next would shape both of their lives forever. The morning felt heavier than usual. He could not sleep. Thoughts of the girl and the verification process kept him awake until dawn. Each time he closed his eyes, he saw her quiet expression, her eyes that seemed to search for something she had lost long ago. He tried to steady himself, telling himself that today he would finally know the truth, and whatever it was, he had to face it. He arrived at the orphanage before it opened, parking his car a little distance away. He walked slowly toward the entrance, each step echoing in his mind. He reminded himself to stay calm, to act naturally, and to respect the girl's space. He knew that today could not be rushed, that every moment mattered. Inside, the staff welcomed him with warmth, but he could sense their understanding of the gravity of the situation. They led him to a quiet office where the paperwork for the verification process was ready. Forms were signed, instructions were given, and he felt the weight of reality pressing on him. This was not just a visit anymore. This was a step toward finding answers, toward confronting the past he had long avoided. He asked about the girl, and the staff told him she was still in her usual spot, sketching quietly by the window. His heart tightened at the thought. He did not want to frighten her, but he also knew the truth could not wait. He asked if he could speak with her briefly, and the staff agreed, sitting nearby to ensure she felt safe. When he approached her, she looked up, her expression cautious but attentive. He knelt slightly to be at her level and spoke softly, complimenting her drawing and asking gentle questions. She responded with small nods and soft words, her eyes flickering toward him as if measuring him carefully. He noticed the subtle signs, the way she hesitated, the way her gaze lingered on him longer than necessary. There was recognition there, even if she did not fully understand it yet. The staff brought the test kit into the room. He felt a mixture of fear and hope. He explained, in the simplest words he could find, that this was a test to see if they were related, to understand something very important about her past. She listened quietly, processing every word. He saw no fear, only curiosity and a trace of something deeper, a longing for answers she had not known to ask. With her consent, the process began. It was quick and simple, but every second felt long and heavy. He watched her carefully, noting how she remained calm, her eyes occasionally meeting his. There was a quiet understanding between them, a silent acknowledgement that this moment was significant. He wanted to speak, to comfort her, but he knew words could be dangerous now. He remained still, offering reassurance through presence alone. After the sample was taken, the staff thanked both of them and explained that it would take a few hours to get results. The waiting period felt unbearable. He tried to engage in conversation with her, asking about her favorite stories and hobbies, but his mind kept drifting to the possible outcomes. He could not stop imagining what it would mean if she was indeed his daughter or she was not. Each scenario carried its own weight, each possibility a different kind of pain. Finally, the staff returned with the results. The moment of truth had arrived. He felt his chest tighten as they handed him the envelope. He opened it carefully, eyes scanning the words. Confirmation of a DNA match stared back at him. She was his daughter. The truth was undeniable. His hand shook, and a wave of emotions, relief, shock, guilt, and joy, washed over him all at once. He felt the urge to speak, to tell her immediately, but he remembered the importance of handling this delicately. The staff guided him through the next steps, suggesting a calm and supportive approach to revealing the truth to her. He nodded, trying to steady his emotions. This moment was not about him. It was about her, about giving her the answers she had unconsciously sought. He approached her again, kneeling as before. He took a deep breath and began in the gentlest way possible. He explained that there was something important he needed to share, something about her past, and that it involved him. Her eyes widened slightly. Curiosity mingled with caution. He continued, carefully sharing what he knew, his voice steady despite the whirlwind inside him. At first, she did not speak. She listened, processing every word, her expression a mixture of surprise, confusion, and something softer, hope. He waited, giving her time, understanding that this revelation was enormous for a young girl who had lived without answers for so long. He could see her mind working, connecting fragments of memory with the story he shared. Tears welled in his eyes as he watched her begin to understand. She had many questions, and he answered each one as honestly and gently as he could. He did not offer excuses, only truth and empathy. He acknowledged the years lost, the absence he could not undo, and his regret for the circumstances that had kept them apart. He emphasized that he was there now, willing to be part of her life if she wanted him to be. Her reaction was cautious, but growing. She reached out, slowly at first, then with more certainty, and took his hand. The gesture was small, but it spoke volumes. It was a bridge, a connection that had survived time and distance, waiting for the moment it could be acknowledged. He felt a mixture of joy and relief, realizing that despite the years of separation, a bond still existed. They spent the rest of the day together, slowly exploring this new reality. They talked, laughed softly, and shared stories of the past and hopes for the future. He felt the weight of the years lift slightly, replaced by a cautious optimism. She remained careful, her trust fragile, but the connection between them was undeniable. Each moment together was a step toward healing, a step toward building a relationship that had been delayed for far too long. As the day ended, he walked her back to her room, ensuring she felt safe and supported. He promised to return, not as a stranger or visitor, but as someone committed to being present in her life. She nodded, a small smile forming, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief, curiosity, and tentative trust. He felt a sense of hope he had not known for years, a hope that the past would be acknowledged, that the future could be shared, and that they could begin to rebuild what had been lost. Driving home, He reflected on the day's events. He realized that life had a strange way of bringing people together at the right time, in unexpected ways. A visit meant to honor the past had led to a discovery that would change both of their lives forever. He understood that the journey ahead would be long, filled with challenges, adjustments, and learning. Yet, for the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose and direction that was deeply satisfying. That night, he sat quietly, thinking about the girl, the orphanage, and the fragile bond that had been restored. He knew that tomorrow would bring new conversations, new experiences, and opportunities to strengthen their connection. But he also understood that patience, respect, and empathy would guide every step. The truth had been revealed, and with it came the chance to nurture a relationship that had been denied for far too long. He felt a quiet gratitude, a determination to honor the trust and the fragile hope that now existed between them. The days that followed were filled with quiet moments, small conversations, and gentle adjustments. He visited her often, each time learning more about her personality, her likes, her fears, and her hopes. She was cautious at first, observing him as if he were a puzzle to be solved. Yet she also showed glimpses of curiosity and interest. He welcomed each small sign of trust, understanding that patience was more valuable than words. They began to share simple routines, walks in the garden, looking at the sky from the orphanage balcony, and discussing her drawings became their way of connecting. He discovered that she had a vivid imagination and a love for stories. Sometimes she would read to him. Other times he would tell her stories from his own childhood, carefully avoiding painful details but sharing enough to create a bond. Laughter slowly entered their interactions, soft and tentative at first, then growing stronger with each visit. He realized that the process of building trust was gradual. There were days when she was withdrawn, quiet, or distracted, and he respected those moments. He never pushed, never demanded answers or affection. Instead, he allowed her to feel safe and supported, offering his presence without pressure. He understood that the years of separation had created walls that could not be torn down instantly. One afternoon, they sat in the playroom, drawing side by side. She was focused on her sketch and he on his, but occasionally their eyes met, exchanging smiles and unspoken understanding. It was in these quiet moments that he felt the depth of their connection. He realized that while words could explain facts, gestures, attention, and shared experiences were building a foundation stronger than anything he had anticipated. The staff noticed a change as well. They saw her begin to open up, asking questions about him, sharing stories about her life, and showing trust in his guidance. He was careful to encourage her autonomy, always reminding her that she could make choices, express herself, and feel safe. He never rushed, never demanded more than she could offer. Slowly, the gap created by years of absence began to close. He also reflected on his own life. He had lived with regrets, guilt, and longing for far too long. The opportunity to reconnect with his daughter brought purpose and clarity. Each visit strengthened his resolve to be the kind of father she needed, someone who would listen, support, and nurture her without judgment. He understood that making up for lost time was not about grand gestures, but about consistent presence and love. Over time, they began to share more personal conversations. She asked about the family she had never known, about the circumstances of her early life, and about the choices that had led them to this moment. He answered with honesty, carefully selecting words that would provide clarity without overwhelming her. He admitted mistakes, expressed regret, and emphasized that his goal was to be there for her now, moving forward together. There were challenges along the way. She sometimes struggled with emotions she did not fully understand, frustration at missing pieces of her past, and moments of uncertainty about trusting him completely. He met each challenge with patience, offering understanding and comfort rather than criticism. He learned to read her cues, to recognize when to give space and when to provide reassurance. Each hurdle became an opportunity to strengthen their bond, reinforcing trust and empathy. As weeks turned into months, their connection deepened. They celebrated small victories, a shared laugh over a story, a confident expression of her thoughts, a moment of physical closeness like a hug or holding hands. Each moment was precious, marking progress and rebuilding a relationship that had been delayed but not destroyed. He realized that healing was a process, not an event, and he was committed to walking it with her step by step. He also worked on integrating himself into the broader aspects of her life. He met her teachers, learned about her daily routines, and engaged with activities she enjoyed. He encouraged her to explore interests and talents, supporting her independence while offering guidance. He wanted her to feel safe, valued, and empowered, knowing that he was not their control, but to nurture. Throughout this time, he continued to reflect on the role of fate, timing, and resilience. He marveled at how a simple visit, meant to honor the past, had led to the most meaningful discovery of his life. The chance to reconnect with his daughter was both a privilege and a responsibility. He felt gratitude for the moments they shared and determination to make every day count. One evening, as the sun set and they watched the colors spread across the sky, he spoke softly to her. He reminded her that while the past could not be changed, the future was theirs to shape together. She nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding and a quiet trust. He felt a sense of completion, not of perfection, but a hope and possibility. They had found each other again, and that was enough to begin anew. Their journey continued with patience, care, and shared experiences. They laughed, learned, and discovered the depth of love that could survive distance and time. The orphanage, once a place of uncertainty and loss, had become a space for reunion, understanding, and the beginning of a life rebuilt together. As he walked home that night, he thought about the girl, about the days ahead, and about the fragile but real bond they were nurturing. He realized that life had brought them back together not by chance, but through persistence of connection, love, and hope. The journey was far from over, but he was ready to face it with patience, empathy, and unwavering commitment to being the father she deserved. For the first time in many years, he felt whole, not because the past was perfect, but because the present offered a new beginning, one built on truth, care, and the quiet power of reconnection.